Today, Japan operates the largest fleet of F-35 Lightning II fighter jets outside of the United States, which manufactures them. With a fleet size of 50 units, 97 more F-35s have already been ordered and are expected to be delivered in the coming years. These came at a cost of $23 billion, and it places Japan as the operator of the third largest fleet of fifth-generation fighter jets in the world, after the US and China. But Japan was only getting started. She wanted more aerial power, more than she could order from external sources. She set her sights on a sixth-generation fighter. Japan initially went solo with her sixth-generation fighter, known as the Mitsubishi F-X, but in December 2022, teamed up with Italy and the United Kingdom to develop and deploy a common fighter jet under a project called the Global Combat Air Program, GCAP for short. This merged the development of the Tempest fighter, under development by Italy and the UK, with the deployment of Japan's F-X fighter. The GCAP program is an equal partnership among all three member nations with similar benefits for all, particularly in terms of cost. The merger would significantly subsidize the $29 billion that Italy and the UK required to fund the Tempest fighter and the $48 billion required for Japan's F-X. In addition to costs, this partnership comes with more benefits in terms of experience and skill as each nation comes to the merger with its most established defense contractors. For the UK, they include prime contractor BAE Systems, Rolls-Royce, MBDA UK, and Leonardo UK. For Italy, their prime contractor Leonardo SPA, Avio Aero, and MBDA. For Japan, they have prime contractors Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Mitsubishi Electric, and IHI Corporation. 10 corporations, 3 companies, 1 fighter. Sounds unstoppable. The coalition has only grown stronger ever since. So strong and so impressive that there have been reports of a host of other nations showing interest in joining the alliance. Nations such as Sweden, India, Australia, and Saudi Arabia. Of these nations, only Saudi Arabia has actively pursued formal inclusion, though no agreements have been finalized. The request to join has raised some eyebrows. Japan, Italy, and the United Kingdom are 3 nations of a like Western mind. Many believe this is why the alliance has been so successful. They are basically one nation spread beyond multiple borders. But with Saudi Arabia, it's different. Saudi Arabia doesn't exactly operate like the traditional Western nation. It is in many ways an authoritarian state that has been criticized many times for its human rights issues. Saudi Arabia ranked 150th out of 167 countries, which was lower than Russia's 144th and China's 148th in the 2023 Democracy Index published by the Economist Intelligence Unit, meaning the Arab power isn't a particularly big fan of democracy. Saudi Arabia has also forged closer relationships with Western rivals such as China, prompting worries that information shared with Saudi Arabia about the GCAP fighter jet could find its way into the hands of China's intelligence agencies. But Saudi Arabia is one thing that the GCAP program would really like: money. A lot of it. This could be why Italy and the United Kingdom have been somewhat supportive of the nation's willingness to join the program. But Japan has been much less enthusiastic, and that could be enough reason for Saudi Arabia to be blocked from the program. The United States will likely be much satisfied with Japan's stance, not necessarily because of Saudi Arabia, considering that the U.S. is Saudi Arabia's largest supplier of arms, but more about confidential information about her allies' fighter jets. China itself is also on the 6th-generation fighter craze and wouldn't shy away from adding features to its 6th-generation fighter that would give it an edge over its Western rivals, so that the technologies designed to give the West an edge over current China would be no match for a 6th-generation China. It has long been general knowledge that China was building a 6th-generation fighter and that the Asia world power had made tremendous progress with it. Writing in The Diplomat, the Asia-Pacific Current Affairs magazine, longtime Chinese military observer Rick Zhou says it's generally accepted that demonstrator test beds of China's 6th-generation fighter have been flown and that some of the planes is expected to emerge this decade. Zhou writes that one of the likely configurations of the plane design would be a tailless flying wing airframe. Li Gang, the test pilot in the maiden flight of the J-20 stealth fighter, has also been quoted as saying the sixth-generation aircraft is expected to make its debut soon. Bold words by people who are likely to know a few things about the behind the scenes of the fighter's development, and their positive remarks have a respectable insight into just how far China has come along. China hasn't only come far on the timeline, but apparently also in capabilities. By every account, the country's new sixth-generation fighter is destined to be something for the U.S. to worry about. The recent emergence of two advanced tailless tactical combat aircraft from China cemented this fortune-telling as true. The two aircraft were spotted in a video on December 26, 2024, a Boxing Day present for the world. Exactly what role these aircraft are intended to fulfill isn't perfectly clear yet. However, the U.S. Air Force has been crystal clear that they're very likely for air superiority purposes. The larger one, now widely known as the J-36, could be an early version of China's sixth-generation fighter, while the smaller J-50 could simply be its unmanned loyal wingman. The J-36 is what it appears to be, though the world better be ready. Features of this aircraft, they're right out of a sci-fi movie. Features such as a large modified Delta Diamond Wing tailless airframe. The J-36 features a large modified Delta Diamond Winged tailless configuration with prominent leading-edge extensions blending into the nose section seamlessly. It appears longer and much wider than its immediate predecessor, the fifth-generation J-20 fighter jet. It appears to be much stealthier too and lacks tails, canards, and strakes. Doing away with these features could bounce radar waves back to the source and give away the aircraft's presence and location. The tailless design can also signify enhanced efficiency and performance during cruise, but the aircraft would pay greatly for it in terms of agility if something isn't done. But of course, something was done. The trailing edge of the aircraft features no less than 15 individual segmented control surfaces, with split elevons ensuring the aircraft retains full control of its movement. Yaw, pitch, roll, air braking, and so on. The aircraft has a weapons bay longer and likely deeper than that found on the J-20. So it'll provide ample space for all sorts of munitions, small, medium, large, and ultra-large. Like all recent top-tier fighters, it could feature additional side bays for air-to-air weaponry and an official rotary weapons rack to really drive its destructive point home. The total amount of ammunition the fighter will hold remains unknown, but it'll be likely well into the tens of thousands of pounds, enough to destroy entire cities. Incredible performance. Starting with its propulsion, the J-36 has a 3-engine layout. This means speed, insane speed. And although it's impossible to say how much thrust each engine would provide, we can at least assume that the aircraft is designed to break the sound barrier like it's Breaking Bread or Breaking Bad. This means the aircraft would be capable of supercruise, breaking the sound barrier without the use of afterburners. At supersonic speeds, the fighter would get to a target area swiftly and, more importantly, be incredibly agile when up against enemy fighter jets or missiles. For longer range missions, with the internal real estate to hold huge amounts of fuel, the aircraft can fly subsonically aside from a super cruise dash into its target area and out if needed. The engines would also likely thrust the aircraft to altitudes of 50,000 feet and beyond, altitudes from which the F-22 Raptor currently rules the skies. Such altitudes would enable the new Chinese fighter to make the most of its weapons, which would have a greater acceleration flying downwards, and its sensor suite, which would have an incredible vantage point to view the battlefield from. All in all, the range, speed, and payload of the new Chinese fighter could put enemy assets at risk, from surface combatants to support aircraft, bombers to fighter jets, military bases to space stations. It is the ultimate machine. Or is it? Because 7,000 miles away in the United States, its greatest rival is taking shape. Its rival, the new American fighter that promises to dominate the skies for decades to come and cut the ribbon to a sixth-generation United States, the Boeing F-47. The hunt is over. The F-47 is here. It is the sixth-generation fighter of the United States Air Force. For over a decade, the U.S. Air Force and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, has been working on this fighter. It began with a DARPA study in 2014 known as the Air Dominance Initiative Study, then grew into a U.S. Air Force program known as the Next Generation Air Dominance Program, NGAD program for short. In March 2025, after years of secret competitions, debates, and at least $10 billion invested, and even a pause of the entire program, the U.S. Air Force was found to have made major progress with the NGAD program, as it announced Boeing as the main contractor of the program and announced to the world that the resulting fighter would be named the F-47. The F-47 is a beast of a machine. To build this new fighter, the Air Force first has had to build new everything else: new sensors, new composite materials, new propulsion systems, new weapons, and new unmanned aerial vehicles. By every indication, the F-47 is designed to be much more than any fighter before it, and loaded with more mind-boggling capabilities too. Capabilities such as groundbreaking stealth. The F-47 will build on the stealth technologies of previous American aircraft, fighters and bombers alike. The B-2 Spirit, the stealthiest aircraft in service today. The F-47 will have an overall triangular shape, internally hold its payload, and have no vertical stabilizers. It is the first fighter ever to have such a revolutionary design. Vertical stabilizers had always been required to keep an aircraft airborne until the concept of active flow control came to life in the B-2 Spirit. Active flow control uses computer brains on board to constantly adjust the flow around the aircraft to keep it airborne, similar to how birds fly. Open architecture. If history is anything to go by, an aircraft can always be better. The F-47 is built to be better than it is. Confusing as that may sound, it makes sense. The F-47 will have an open architecture that allows it to take on new upgrades easily and quickly. This way, the fighter will constantly adapt to newer challenges of the battlefield that are introduced by the advancements of formidable opposing militaries like China's. To put it simply, the 6th-generation fighter can be upgraded to become the 7th-generation fighter in the coming years. Maximum connectivity. To swiftly gather relevant information about its surroundings and act on gathered information, the F-47 is slated to wield the most sensitive sensors ever installed on an American fighter. The Air Force will do away with radars mounted on the aircraft for electrically configured smart skins integrated into the aircraft's fuselage to achieve this. Information acquired by these sensors will be made available to other members of the fleet, whether 6th generation or not, to keep the entire fleet of friendlies abreast of relevant information in real time. The Air Force fleet instantly becomes a tightly interconnected force in the sky, and it's all in large part thanks to the connectivity of its new fighter. New spectrum of weapons. The F-47 will be armed to the teeth. The fighter will wield conventional missiles, bombs, possibly massive rotary cannon, hypersonic missiles, and laser-directed energy weapons that take out threats with high-intensity laser beams. Laser weapons in particular come with an entire slew of advantages over legacy weapons. For one, laser weapons have unlimited magazines, as they can continue to fire for as long as they're connected to some power source. 2, they strike targets at a speed of 180,000 miles per second, the speed of light, the fastest thing in the universe. Targets would be particularly unable to escape them. In addition to these, the F-47 will be escorted into battle by UAVs, which can function as non-built-in weaponry for the manned fighter. UAVs, known as Collaborative Combat Aircraft, or CCA for short, are the unmanned aerial system section of the NGAD program. They harness cutting-edge technologies such as autonomy, machine learning, and artificial intelligence to fly alongside and support manned fighters during their missions. These loyal wingmen can perform a variety of tasks during these missions, carrying weapons and flying ahead to provide intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and even striking targets directly. This enables a single manned fighter to operate with the might of an entire fleet and gives more dynamic options during mission planning. The U.S. Air Force plans to spend over $6 billion across the next 5 years on developing these CCAs. By April 2024, the Air Force had selected Anduril and General Atomics as the top 2 contractors to build these CCAs. Both companies now have full-scale mock-ups of their designs on display. The Air Force is expected to select a winning design in the coming months or years. The goal is to have a CCA design actually in production by 2028. Dozens of additional firms are supporting the program through the development of autonomous technologies, sensors, and other mission systems, command and control capabilities, and more. Once completed, each CCA is expected to cost between $20 to $40 million, roughly the same price of an F-16 Fighting Falcon. The Air Force plans to acquire at least 1,000 CCAs supporting 500 manned fighters, 2 CCAs per fighter. The 500 manned fighters will be an interesting cocktail of the F-35 Lightning II and the F-47, as the F-47 looks to replace the F-22 Raptor as not only the most lethal fighter jet of the U.S. Air Force, but also as the most lethal in history. From the U.S. to China, Japan to Italy and beyond, governments, militaries, defense contractors, and the best engineers in the world are working around the clock to build the most advanced fighters the world has ever seen, the 6th-generation fighter. As we dance into the 2030s, when most of these fighters will fully enter service, everyone in the world must prepare by doing 2 important things. 1, subscribe to this channel, and 2, give this video a like. Kindly do that now, and thanks for watching.